Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Global. We'll get you top stories from India and the region. I am Tanvi Taneja. And for news from the rest of the world, I'm joined by my colleague in Washington, D.C., Nick Harper. Good evening from New Delhi, Nick.
Across Central Europe. Coming up in the next 30 minutes, the King of Jordan embarks on a diplomatic mission to end the Israel-Hamas conflict, and US senators vote down a proposal to fund Israel, Ukraine and strengthen border security. But first, the headlines.
US Secretary of State Antony Blinken remains hopeful for Israel-Hamas negotiation as he departs Tel Aviv after Prime Minister Netanyahu rejects Hamas's proposed ceasefire terms. Germany sends its powerful air defense warship to join the EU Red Sea mission. France, Greece, Italy, among others, to join this mission. Voting ends in Pakistan general elections after suspension of mobile services and border closures with Iran and Afghanistan. At least 5 people killed in sporadic incidents during polling.
Martial law, the situation worsened. Now things are worse than ever.
And EU scientists say the world surpassed key warming threshold of 1.5 degrees Celsius across an entire year for the first time. SpaceX and NASA successfully launched climate satellite after weather delays. So first news from West Asia, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken met Israel's War Cabinet member minister Benny Gantz and Gadi Eisenkot to discuss regional threats before he left Tel Aviv. The ministers thanked Blinken for the US administration's support and efforts to secure the release of remaining hostages. They also discussed humanitarian aid to Gaza and Israel's conflict with Hezbollah and Iran. Earlier, after meeting Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, the top US diplomat said Hamas's proposal for a ceasefire has clear non-starters, but definitely it leaves space for an agreement to be reached.
We had an opportunity today to discuss with the Israeli government the response that Hamas sent last night to the proposal that the United States, Qatar, and Egypt had put together to bring the remaining hostages home and extend the humanitarian pause. What I can tell you about these discussions is that while there are some clear non-starters in Hamas's response, we do think it creates space for agreement to be reached. And we will work at that relentlessly until we get there.
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has rejected Hamas's latest terms for a ceasefire and the return of hostages held in Gaza. Hamas was responding to an Israel-backed ceasefire proposal with suggested terms, which reportedly included a 45-day pause in fighting and a phased exchange of hostages and prisoners. There would also be a withdrawal of Israeli troops from Gaza. Calling Hamas delusional, Netanyahu said there was no alternative for Israel but to bring about the group's collapse.
Peace and security require total victory over Hamas. We cannot accept anything else. Can you imagine what will happen if we don't have total victory? Hamas leaders have already pledged they'll repeat the October 7th massacre over and over and over again. No nation can accept that. We certainly won't. Without total victory, Iran and its terror proxies, Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis and others, will be emboldened to subvert moderate states in the Middle East. They'll threaten the entire free world. Only total victory will prevent that. And total victory is within our reach. Military pressure led to the release of 110 hostages, and only continued military pressure will bring home the remaining hostages.
A U.S. military strike on Wednesday in Iraq's capital Baghdad killed a Hezbollah commander, Abu Bakr al-Sadeh, who was responsible for attacks on the U.S. forces in the region. The strike came as the U.S. has been planning retaliatory attacks against Iran-backed militants who killed 3 U.S. soldiers in a drone attack in Jordan last month. Iraq has reacted and said repeated U.S. strikes is pushing the government to end the U.S.-led international coalition's mission in the country. Now, just as U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken wrapped up his 7th trip to West Asia, he met leaders of Israel, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Egypt to find lasting solutions to this conflict. Now, Jordan's King Abdullah is touring major Western capitals to lobby for an end to the Gaza conflict. My colleague Nick Harper is in Washington, D.C. He gives us more on this and other stories making headlines around the world. Nick, hopes for a truce still alive?
That's right, Tam. The effort's still underway, and in a bid to put an end to that ongoing Israel-Hamas conflict, Jordan's King Abdullah has begun a major tour of Western capitals this Thursday. He's first scheduled to visit France and then Germany. The King will then travel to the United States to meet President Joe Biden on Monday and other top leaders to campaign for an end to the conflict in Gaza. Meanwhile, Germany on Thursday sent its powerful air defence warship to join a European Union naval mission in the Red Sea. The mission is scheduled to be launched in mid-February to protect merchant ships from attacks by the Houthis. France, Greece and Italy are among the countries that will participate in the EU mission. They'll be mandated to protect commercial ships and intercept attacks, but not take part in land strikes against the Houthis. Well, here in the US, Senate Republicans have blocked a bipartisan border deal that would have taken months, or rather has taken months, to negotiate. But they said that they could still approve aid for Ukraine and Israel. Those two things were tied up in that previous proposal. Senators in both parties are now engaged in an urgent round of talks to see if they can reach an agreement that would allow a debate on the foreign aid package without the border security provisions. Donald Trump, though, has been pressing his fellow Republicans to reject any compromise as he campaigns to defeat Democratic President Joe Biden in the November election. All of this as US National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan says that the White House is focused on getting Ukraine an aid package through Congress.
At the end of the day, there is no alternative to the United States stepping up to the plate and providing a level of resources that allow Ukraine to have the artillery, the air defense systems, and the other capabilities they need. And time is of the essence in this regard. So we are going to stay focused on that, and we believe that we still can and will deliver it.
German Chancellor Olaf Scholz will meet with the US President Joe Biden in Washington on Friday. Scholz said discussions on Ukraine aid will take centre stage during talks between the two leaders. His visit comes after wartime aid for Ukraine was voted down by Republicans in the US Senate, who blocked a bill that would have supplied Kiev with funding.
We know that Ukraine is defending itself with everything it has, but it needs support to ensure that it can continue to do so. What has been pledged so far by Europe and what has been pledged through the decisions of the US Congress is still not enough. So we need to find a way for us all to do more together.
Former US President Donald Trump is expected to win Nevada caucuses this Thursday with an almost assured victory, further cementing his pursuit of the Republican Party's presidential nomination. Despite being the only major candidate on Tuesday's Republican primary ballot, Trump's top rival Nikki Haley was defeated after thousands of Trump supporters marked their ballots with none of these candidates, an option which garnered 63% of the vote against Haley's 30%. Trump is already pivoting to general election campaigning in one of the most pivotal states in the 2024 race. The European Union's Copernicus Climate Change Service has said that the first time global warming has exceeded 1.5 degrees Celsius across an entire year. In the 2015 Paris Agreement, countries agreed to try and prevent global warming surpassing 1.5 degrees Celsius to avoid it unleashing more severe and irreversible consequences. An EU official said rapid reductions in greenhouse gas emissions are the only way to stop global temperatures from rising. DD India's Ishan Garg has more from Brussels.
It's a step in the wrong direction. That's the initial verdict of the scientific community. New data from the Brussels-based Copernicus Climate Change Service shows the global mean temperature between February 2023 to January 2024 was the highest ever at 15.02 degrees. That means the average temperature rose by 1.52 degrees compared to pre-industrial levels. In 2015, world leaders agreed to keep global warming, quote, well below 2 degrees Celsius and to aim for only 1.5 degrees Celsius. The 2-degree mark is believed to be the tipping point after which many impacts of climate change could potentially become irreversible. Analysts say the recent data should not be seen as a harbinger of doom, although it does put the planet on track to seeing significant impacts of climate change in the long term. Scientists say the global temperatures are stabilizing, but not as quickly as they should. Scientists say a rapid reduction in global greenhouse gas emissions is urgently needed. Just this week, the European Union unveiled plans to cut emissions by 90% by 2040. But analysts say more green funding for developing countries and investments in sustainable developments are needed to limit the impact of climate change on the most vulnerable. Ishan Garg in Brussels, reporting for DD India.
Spanish farmers have stepped up their protests this Thursday by driving tractors through Barcelona, disrupting traffic and causing chaos. The protests, which started on Tuesday against soaring costs, bureaucracy and cheap competition from outside the European Union, are backed by the country's 3 main farming associations. Protesting farmers say EU environmental protections make them less competitive from farmers in other regions. A volcano has erupted in southwest Iceland for the 2nd time this year, making it the 6th outbreak on a peninsula there since 2021. Volcanic outbreaks there are also called fissure eruptions, which do not usually cause large explosions or significant dispersal of ash into the stratosphere. However, scientists fear that they could continue for years to come. Icelanders are currently working around the clock to try and build dikes the size of 3-story buildings to protect a vital power plant and homes from lava flows. Well, that's it from me here in Washington. Tanvi, back to you in the studio.
Thank you very much, Nick, for those updates. Nick Harper joining us all from Washington, D.C. Still to come on DD India Global. Russia's Vladimir Putin and China's Xi Jinping discuss conflicts in Ukraine and West Asia over phone, condemning US's interference into the affairs of other countries. And silver emerges as an alternative to gold as Egyptians try to protect their savings amid surging prices and a weakening currency.
Is telepathy real or fiction? Could it soon be a reality? Imagine controlling your world with your mind. Elon Musk's brain chip promises telepathy for real. But is it safe? Is it ethical? I connect the dots to get the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots every Friday at 8 p.m. IST on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Global. I am Tanvi Taneja. On to Pakistan now. At least 5 people were killed in terror attacks on Thursday after temporarily suspending mobile phone services to strengthen security. The country voted in a general election to form a new government on Thursday. So, Nawaz Sharif and Bilawal Bhutto Zardari cast their vote as Pakistanis braved cold winter weather and the threat of violence to start voting for a new parliament on Thursday, even as the death toll from twin bombings a day before claimed at least 30 lives in the worst election-related violence ahead of the contested elections. A report.
Voting began in Pakistan for the parliamentary elections on Thursday under tight security amidst terror attacks, an ongoing economic crisis and a deeply polarized political environment. Although Pakistanis are voting for a better future, they continue to live under the shadows of terror. Whenever our country was put under martial law, the situation worsened. Now things are worse than ever. Earlier things were way better. Now even 10 people earn in a family and it's not enough. The economic situation is so bad that we can't survive. In every household, every person, including children, are earning money, but still their financial situation is very bad. If we talk about electricity bills, gas bills, water bills, it's way beyond our thinking. The election comes almost 2 years since former Prime Minister and cricketer turned politician Imran Khan was ousted in a no-confidence motion. He was later jailed on corruption charges and now is barred from contesting elections. Three-time PM Nawaz Sharif is on the ballot this time, while on the other hand, Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, son of slain politician and former Pakistani PM Benazir Bhutto, is in the fray. He has run an aggressive campaign in a bid for the top political post. In view of the prevailing uncertainties, security has been beefed up and closely monitored at the polling booths. Mobile phone services have been suspended across the country. The government's decision to deploy tens of thousands of troops at polling stations across the country comes after two blasts near the election offices that killed 26 people in southwestern province of Balochistan. The Islamic State claimed responsibility for the explosions. Defense expert Sushant Sareen meanwhile said there are speculations that these attacks might be falsely planned and staged and executed by the Pakistani army to ensure a total control on the situation.
The attacks have been happening for over a week now. There was an attack on a police station. Some speculation whether these attacks were being done as false flag attacks.
However, irrespective of the poll results, the incoming government will have to confront formidable challenges, including managing internal unrest, addressing a severe economic crisis, and tackling the issue of illegal migration.
Staying within the region, India on Thursday reiterated its concerns about developments along the border with Myanmar, where the junta is on the back foot because of a concerted offensive by resistance forces. India's Ministry of External Affairs said that there are significant concerns in Myanmar and the government has issued directive for safe evacuation of Indian citizens.
म्यांमार में वहाँ पर भी स्थिति थोड़ी चिंताजनक है जहाँ तक सुरक्षा की बात है और हम लोगों ने कल एक एडवाइजरी निकाला था जो हम लोग वहाँ पर हमारे नागरिक हैं उनको हम कह रहे हैं कि आप वहाँ से निकल जाएं और जो हमारे नागरिक वहाँ जाना चाहते हैं उनको कह रहे हैं उनसे हमारी ये गुजारिश है कि आप लोग वहाँ ना जाएं क्योंकि वहाँ की स्थिति नाजुक है.
India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman presented a copy of the White Paper on the Indian economy in Parliament today. White Paper compares the economic performance of 10 years of the Congress-led UPA government with that of the 10 years of the BJP-led NDA government. The objectives of the White Paper is to apprise the members of the nature and extent of governance, economic and fiscal crises before 2014. Further, it informs about the policies and measures that the government took to restore the health of the economy in the last 10 years. India Energy Week showcases a unique way to utilize ethanol for household cooking. Coco is exploring opportunities to establish the first demonstration site with liquid bioethanol fuel in India. DD India's Tapas Bhattacharya reports from Goa.
India Energy Week is seeing a lot of innovative ideas coming up, and right now I am in one of this pavilion of Global Biofuel Alliance, where an ethanol gas stove is been heralded. Prime Minister Narendra Modi came here and he in fact saw this whole system. I want to show you how exactly it works. I have with me Mr. Naveen from Coco Network, who are a pioneer of this. Sir, please show us exactly how this works.
So the first thing is this is an ethanol-based cook stove. Ethanol is a liquid fuel, it's not a gas fuel. This is how we generally sell it to the customer. They're able to receive the cooker and the canister as a single unit. The canister is then taken to the ATMs that we have. These ATMs are placed in our local corner shops, very easily to access and very close to their homes. They lock the system into the ATM, an NFC chip reads the canister, identifies who I am as a customer, and I'm able to then choose on the touchscreen the amount I want to purchase. That amount, once I make the payment for the amount shows up in the canister. Once it's completed, I undock it, go back home with it, go back to my cooker. In my cooker, I'm able to open it up again, very similar to the same system over there. I dock it again, lock it in, and now the ethanol is dispensed into the cooker where it is soaked up and can be used for regular cooking.
Where are you guys actually selling this product?
So currently we sell in Kenya and in Rwanda. In Kenya, we've sold to over 1 million households. They use cocoa every day. Rwanda, we recently expanded to.
What is the price range that you've kept for this particular system?
So currently, the actual price that we would sell this at is about $35. But in Kenya, because we're able to leverage carbon credits by offsetting charcoal, we are able to sell this at $14.
Which is almost
1,200 to 1,500 rupees.
And do you believe that this will be a major game changer for a country like India?
In terms of general safety, in terms of general use case, LPG and ethanol have a lot of differences. Ethanol is a lot less likely to explode. There's no pressure. It's a liquid, so it's very stable. You can see the cylinder itself is very light.
New ideas coming out from India Energy Week, and this is one of them. And one believes that with innovative ideas, with collaboration, India Energy Week will pave way for a better future. With camera person Ajit, this is Tapash Bhattacharya for GD India from India Energy Week, Goa.
Russian President Vladimir Putin and his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping engaged in a telephonic conversation on Thursday. While condemning US's interference into the affairs of other countries, the two leaders said that their foreign policy will be aimed at creating a multipolar, fairer world order. They also discussed the ongoing conflicts in both West Asia and Ukraine. Kremlin said that the two leaders want to have a close personal interaction, but have no plans of official visits to each other's countries as of now. And next we take a look at other stories making news around the world. Silver emerged as an alternative to gold in Egypt as the gold prices in the market reached their highest level. The price of 1 gram of silver more than doubled in a year, but that is far cheaper than gold. The trend is a measure of an economic crisis in which inflation has been running at more than 30%, and the central bank has allowed the currency to weaken 50% against the dollar. Google has announced that it will be rebranding its AI chatbot Bard as Gemini, the underlying large language model, while also releasing the advanced tier Ultra Gemini Advanced that will be bundled as part of Google One for $19.99 a month. The company is also launching a new Gemini app where users can access Gemini Advanced. SpaceX and NASA have successfully launched the PACE satellite on top of a Falcon 9 rocket. PACE aims to study the exchange of carbon dioxide between the ocean and atmosphere, monitor air quality, and assess Earth's climate. A unique symbol of a dream coming true or winning in the Olympics, as the Paris 2024 medalists will take piece of the Eiffel Tower home. The design by Chaumet, the medals will feature a hexagon-shaped piece of iron taken from the original Eiffel Tower in their center. And as we end this show, we take you to Germany's carnival capital, Cologne. Thousands of Germans celebrate the traditional street carnival, wearing colorful and creative costumes. Participants sang loudly and danced to the familiar tunes of brass bands and folklore music. They also toured the streets and pubs for carnival parades as part of the festive vibes. So that's it in this edition of DD India Global. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on Facebook, X and Instagram. I am Tanvi Taneja from my entire team in New Delhi. Thank you for watching. Namaskar.